And there we go. I guess we are live. Okay, hey, there we go. I'm live. I'm going to try to do this podcast video format because I feel like I'm yammering on and on, but I am not maybe providing some visuals. So what we're going to do is give this a shot. I'm not like a professional podcast guy. I just went through a thing, and I think this stuff should be recorded, especially if I have something to teach you guys. But this feels weird. Let's get my situation here. Perfect. A little branding. Never hurt anybody. This is the Cointelpro 2.0 podcast. My name is Stephen Beckman. I am the Chief Executive Nobody of the Mesh News Project, the Cointelpro 2.0 podcast series, video series, website and guide is to help any of you, whoever might find yourself on the wrong end of gang stalking or going through Cointelpro, because you have become, I guess, I don't know, an enemy of the state, I guess you would call it. Who knows? But oh, camera problem. See, this might work, this might not work. We'll see. I'm trying to get all sorts of perfect. You can check out our online guide at Cointelpro, the number 2, and then 0zero.com. You can check out our video series. That's at videos with an S, videos.cointelpro, the number 2, and 0.com, as well as our podcast series at podcasts with an S, podcasts.cointelpro 2.0. I'm sorry, Cointelpro 2, the number 2, 0, zero, spelled out, .com. Sweet. So, this is our first simultaneous normal audio podcast as well as a video podcast. I feel like this format is going to work for people who enjoy getting their podcast visually. It takes a little bit longer for me to prepare, to get all the materials together so I can also visually stimulate the people watching on YouTube. And yeah, we're just gonna go for it this way. I will be trying to over describe things for people who are listening on the podcast, since I am using visuals and stuff like that. And I just want to say I'm super stoked to get up to 9,000 listeners now. We got a record of 9,000 listeners. That's super cool to think anybody would give any shits what I have to say about anything. So yeah. So what I'm going to be doing is, right now I have this phone right here recording my voice, and that's for the audio podcast. I have this camera right here, and then I have my tablet down here, which I am recording the screen, and then that will be displayed over here, hopefully, if this all works out. All the visuals, etc. Now, today's episode is called Becoming the Story, and that's something that I feel like lots of people don't realize is a strategy that's used. I wasn't aware of it. This is all, I'm not well versed in this stuff. I have to do research. I have to make sense of things. I have some people locally sometimes will give me tips, you know, where to look, what to compare, because this is something that happens to, from what I'm understanding, quite a few people who leak, who work in, you know, intel or what have you. If they find somebody who's leaking information or telling people stuff they shouldn't, these Cointelpro tactics are used on them. Also, if you're like a pain in the ass to the government, they'll use this shit on you. But I feel like this information that I learned should definitely be put out there for people to absorb and better protect themselves. The Cointelpro 2.0 survival guide came about because, well, two things happened for me, at least. Um, San Diego, I live in San Diego. San Diego is the world's, I'm sorry, not the world's, but the nation's largest concentration of military and military contractor personnel in the nation. So we have a very large military community here, and if you're not in the military, you were previously in the military, or your father or mother was in the military, or you know somebody in your family was in the military, or you run a business where you service lots of people in the military. Like, this whole town revolves around the military, where Detroit revolves around, you know, automakers, and automakers like are the lifeblood of that city. San Diego's lifeblood, even though it seems like just some sleepy metropolis that with nice beaches and great weather. The reason why the military runs this bitch is because it has beaches and great weather, so they can do shit and practice shit year round, and they can produce killers year round in the world's greatest weather. They never have to, you know, stop. Lots of things get tested down here. We have Camp Pendleton Base is huge. We have the Miramar Air Base, and we have a naval base. So we got 3 major bases down here as well. So that being said, so you have an understanding of what's going on there. Also, I'd like to interject, and since the military's been here for well over 100 years, they've been pretty much running San Diego the way they see fit. They have their fingers in everything. Local police, you know, social groups, your local schools, civic government, etc. Because you have to understand, the military sees these towns and suburbs in San Diego that surround the bases as like layers of security, like onion layers. And so it's, especially if they're going to be dealing with stuff that's like secret information or secret projects or what have you, they got to know what's going on around base, where all the people live, where they go after they're done working all that shit. And so they know about everything that's going on in town. They got their fingers in fucking everything around here. But that also means that we have a different kind of corruption climate, where the government and Pentagon contractors, etc., mix in people who work for the government, and then like contractors, and you know, we have the cartel here. We don't have mafia. We have the cartel here in San Diego, and like police corruption, kind of all merge in this melting pot. So with that in mind, my father was previously in the Navy. He got finished here when he finished his service way back in the 80s, and he was a cop for like, I don't know, 4 years or something like that, 5 years. And unfortunately, he passed on duty. But this was in the 80s. It's a long time ago, you know, especially if we're in 2021. So nearly 40 years ago. So he died on duty. I was like 6 years old. And the way law enforcement has it set up is you can set it up, your life insurance, so when your kids are older and adults, they can get money. So I was nearing graduation, and I had this set up. My father set this up for me. You know, I was like 25, 26, 27. And I graduated college, and there's these services called JG Wentworth. You can take that money out early. You take a huge penalty, humongous penalty. Like, it's not worth it. Don't ever do that. But I'm laying the foundation so you can understand, you know, why I'm even making this and why I'm even qualified to tell you these things. And so my dad left me this dough, and I graduated college. My last years of college, I had like 16-hour days every day. So after I got out, instead of like, you know, some people go backpacking or whatever, they go for a year after college, I just took out all that money out early, and I had like a staycation. I woke up at 11 a.m. I played PlayStation until my friends came home, and then we went out to the bars until closing time, and I'd just go to the beach. I'd go skateboarding all day. Like, it was just great. I just did that for like a year, 2 years. So growing up in this town, you know people who work in government, people who work in law enforcement, etc. And since everyone knows what happens when somebody passes, and everyone knows the same kind of hookup, because they all got the same kind of hookup, there's a lot of people I knew growing up who knew I was coming into this dough. And San Diego has a really corrupt law enforcement / military industrial community. And so two things happened why I'm in this situation. Is one was a lot of these locals and stuff like that, people I grew up with, people who I lived with, who I knew since I was like in third grade, who also worked in that space, law enforcement, military, whatever. Basically were plotting to steal his money from me because it's tax free. You know, when it gets dispersed to me and disappears, I don't have to fucking explain to the IRS where it went because it's tax free, whatever. But what these people didn't know, because they weren't paying attention, what they were doing was like ransacking my storage units and stuff like that when I didn't know, breaking into them and stealing these documents. And then they understood the disbursement dates for the disbursement date for that money, and they didn't know I took it out early. They weren't paying attention, you know. And sometimes how things are when you're an adult, you go your separate ways. It came time around like 2013, 2014, when that was supposed to disperse on paper. And since they ransacked my storage units, I didn't know. They started to try to squeeze me, and they used their collective resources and their jobs and their security clearance and their access to like their NSA detail jobs, etc. And local cops were running this whole scam trying to like terrify me. And then multiple times through like my hacked devices and stuff like that, they would like send me notifications and random emails and stuff like that saying that this money that I'm coming into needs to disappear, and then they'll leave me alone. But I didn't have any money, and I kept telling these motherfuckers, I don't have any money, I don't have any money. And since they're criminals though, they thought I was lying, so they kept pressing me over and over because they had planned that they were going to get paid. They were going to, you know what I'm saying, they were going to rob Steve simultaneously. And okay, so that happened, right? So all the way up to like 2013, whatever, 14. Let's go backwards to 2007. 2007, unfortunately, was doing a lot of research, searching the internet for, I don't know, God knows what. During college, I would read a lot of, I would watch a lot of documentaries, I'd read books and stuff like that about all sorts of things, about politics and, you know, like, just, you know, I'd just get into that whole grand strategy thing. A lot of people get into that shit in college. And unfortunately, I came across something, either the guy was a whistleblower or somebody was trying to hide some data. And at the time, Google didn't spider Flash movies. Basically, you know what a Flash movie is? Because Flash movie doesn't have searchable text. Well, then it didn't. But what Google does do is they run experimental versions of their spider, and whatever it was, I was doing some research, and then I came across the link, and I hit the link, and I brought this up. Oh, my battery's going down. Let me hook this up, because I would hate for that to go all fucked up. Here we go, we're charging. Let me fix this bitch. And I came across this thing that detailed this thing that happened. And it was around 2007. They mentioned something about Hillary Clinton in there, etc. So my understanding is either one or two things. It was either somebody trying to whistleblow something during the 2008 election season, or it was somebody trying to put some information up, like leak some information to like a buddy or something like that, because it was like really rudimentary. It looked more like a PowerPoint presentation than anything, like somebody trying to explain something to somebody else. And I came across it, and I saw it, and it was weird. And I don't know, I see a lot of crazy things on the internet, and I just didn't think about it. 2007. And then fast forward to 2014, 2015, before the 2016 elections. Oh, might I add, the thing that I saw had to do with basically somebody breaking down that George W. Bush basically was trying to eliminate possible threats to his presidential run in 2001 and 2004. So he basically used his dad's intelligence and military connections to send an inertia-based, what they call ordnance, whatever the fuck that means, at JFK Jr.'s plane. But so I saw this shit in 2007. I was just like, okay, well, cool story. I see so much crazy shit on the internet. And then fast forward to 2015, 2016, when Jeb Bush was going to be in the election cycle, and I didn't know that I didn't know what I saw was legit until, like, while this commotion was happening, these locals were trying to rob me. I didn't know that there was a group of people slowly moving into town about this information that I saw, because it started getting around that I saw it, but I wasn't acting on it, and they were all kind of weirded out. I wasn't trying to, like, go to the press or anything, because I didn't know it was legit. And while I was getting extorted by these locals who, like Marines and people who have NSA detail, and these local city cops I grew up with who knew about the money I'd be coming into, so they worked together. There's this whole, like, racket going on here in San Diego. Really need to talk about more. That situation car crashed into these, I guess, pro-Bush military and intelligence kind of people. Started moving into San Diego not long after I saw that shit. And I understood that they were speculating that maybe somebody told it to me or what have you. They didn't understand how it is that I knew that. Or I knew to search for it. And I didn't. I was just, like, grinding through so many different leaks and just... Google was really new back in 2007. It was still new. YouTube was still, like, a new thing. Like, so I just was in it every day like a fire hose. So I didn't even recall, like, the string of events or how I came to that or whatever. But so from what I heard through the grapevine after this shit started, was that these people were concerned that I was going to say something or go to the press while Jeb was trying to take a stab at being elected, and they flipped the fuck out. And so what they did was they used the opportunity of these locals already trying to rob me as a means to, you know what I'm saying, be kind of like a powder keg to start this shit off. And that's exactly what happened. So now I'm in a catch-22. The local police and stuff like that aren't going to help me. There's something called the blue wall. You can look it up. It's called the blue wall. These are local cops and shit like it. People I knew growing up. They're going to protect their homies. They're not going to want to get into it because they know it's going to, like, shine a big light that the military industrial community here in San Diego work together with corrupt law enforcement, and they shake people down. So they'll, like, call it, say you're a terrorist or whatever, you know, people with NSA details, so they have a reason to look at your financials, etc. And then see if you're worth robbing or not. And once these locals who qualified me to get robbed knew that they were going to jack me, that's when they started, like, ransacking my storage units and started spreading rumors that I was like a pedophile and stuff like that behind my back, because they planned on trying to get this score. Little did I know what my father left me would have been much more substantial had I not taken it out much earlier. So they were all thinking that they were going to get this giant payday. I didn't even know that's how much I was going to get. You know, I really should have not been a fucking dumb kid and taken that shit out like, bro, like, J.G. Wentworth will fucking rob you. It's crazy. But so these people were counting on a big fucking payday. So I'm in this catch-22 situation where these locals in, like, military industrial capacity, people who work on base, etc., and these local cops don't want to go to jail. They're very allergic to getting, you know, going to jail and, you know, having the diameter of their beehole enlarged. And at the same time, it's also in the best interest for people from the kind of Bush side, or people who, you know, owe their career to the Bushes, or military pro Bush people in the military, which there are plenty, considering his dad is literally named after this. The CIA building is literally named after George W.'s dad. So they have a lot of support, and they so I'm in this catch-22 where the feds don't want to help me with this local situation, and these local fucks don't want to help me not get fucked by the Fed. So I'm in this, like, rock and a hard place, and it fucking sucks, because it's beneficial for everybody that I just fucking roll over and fucking die. Because everyone's problems go away. Nobody goes to jail. The local corrupt cops and shit don't go to jail. The people, this whole syndicate shit doesn't go, whatever. Anyways, so when that was all going off, they were using me to see who would try to help me. So they kind of like dangled me out like a piece of cheese and seeing what people in the military industrial capacity would try to reach out and help me, etc. And they did some really horrible things to people who helped me, gave me tips. I didn't know this was going on. I was losing my fucking mind. I was going under this Cointelpro abuse, which we have a long catalog of videos, etc. So that's why the whole guide works. And that's why I have such extensive knowledge on gang stalking and Cointelpro, is because pretty much I'm involved in both now. So I got a little set of notes here. So, now that we got that out of the way, so basically what I was talking about here is, we're going to go to the tablet. Let me go here.
18.4 million.
So, you're going to become the story. You understand? During this process, there's a huge chance that they're going to try to flip the script, and instead of you, let's say you're in the capacity where you're in Cointelpro, which is what I said this whole podcast episode was about you becoming the story. Is when you're in Cointelpro, specifically Cointelpro, even though you might be subject to gang stalking, and that might be because of local corruption from law enforcement or what have you, they are going to try to change the script on you. It's a formula, and basically they're going to have it so nobody's talking about local police corruption. Nobody's going to be talking about, the corrupt military industrial complex people who are using, their NSA contractor positions to figure out who in town is worth shaking down. No one's going to be talking about how the military industrial community and the police also work hand in hand with the cartel down here. It's like this three-tiered family. Like, these three people share power in the city, pretty much. No one's going to be talking about that. They're just going to be talking about you. You're going to become the center of attention. Nobody's going to be talking about the fact that you expose corruption, that you leak something. All people are going to be concentrating is on you and all these bad things that they're hearing about you, and that you're just this toxic person that was living amongst them like a fucking daywalker. So, the greatest example of this is there's this movie called Kill the Messenger, and it's about this guy named Gary Webb, who was just, it's crazy how this shit happens, but this is exactly how it happens. People think like you're hacking in the Pentagon or whatever. Like, most conspiracies, like just like Snowden said, most conspiracies are like hiding in plain sight, or you know what I'm saying, like if you're paying attention or doing your research or whatever, you'll figure it out, because people get lazy or what have you. And Gary Webb was just moonlighting court cases, and he stumbled across this lead, and that lead led to him, this was in the late 90s, led to him finding out that the CIA was supplying crack to the inner city to fund wars in Latin America. And they made a movie about his life. What's his name? Who is, what's that Archer's name from the Avengers? What's his name? Anyways, he plays Gary Webb, and I'm going to play this clip for you right here. For those of you listening, I'm going to try to move this microphone down here so you can hear what's going on.
Yeah. Enough. I was you once, Gary. I started down this road. But nowhere near as far as you were. I think so. I wasn't going to stop. They controversialized me. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about? Did they make you the story? You have a history of schizophrenia. You're a liar. You're a homo. Eat your dog. You're a pedophile. It doesn't matter if none of it's true. The point is, no one remembers what you found. They remember you. And you're not. Cease to exist.
So that's essentially very fucking true. Like when I saw this movie, this was already, um, well into me being in this abuse program. It's so fucking true. Nobody's talking about the corruption that I came across. No one's talking about how people who have NSA detail are fucking running an extortion racket, and that like because we have SEALs, we have Navy SEALs here, etc. There's lots of people who have intelligence training, and when they're not, getting deployed somewhere to go and fight the enemy or whatever, they use their skills to fucking shake people down, etc. And there's a very close knit intel community here that, there's this. It's like this underlying community of shit going on here in San Diego. They're all military trained. They're in intelligence and like like manipulation techniques and enhanced interrogation and torture techniques. It's probably one of the worst fucking places to go under Cointelpro, other than probably like DC or something, because just all these bad boys are here, man. They're trained, and they will fuck your head, man. So, but yeah, that's essentially what happens, man. Is you become the center of attention. You become what everyone's focusing on, instead of what you figured out, what you found, what you leaked. And you have to be careful that doesn't happen to you. How they were able to do that with me is, like I said, the corrupt cops and the military industrial community, intel community, whatever you want to call it, and the cartel, they have this like agreement or something. It's like this well-oiled machine. That's the best way I can put it, because I would seamlessly be, almost say, handed off to people in law enforcement, then to people in like Hispanic cartels and stuff like that community, and then be handed back over to like people in the military space, etc. Almost seamlessly. Like they all had earpieces in and they were fucking talking to each other. I go and fuck around with some people over here, try to get away from these guys over here, and it would just be seamless. And because these guys these local guys who were already trying to fucking rob me, had nothing to do with this George Bush shit. Yeah, it was just, it's the best way I can fucking put it is like, it was such a well-oiled machine. You can tell these motherfuckers have done it a lot. You know what I'm saying? Have you seen someone do something and you're like, wow, you must have done that for years. That happened so quick. Like, that's the best way I can put it. There's a community here that they use their resources and connections to make a lot of dough off a lot of people here in the area. Now, I'm not going to get into like the purge and stuff like that. I already have a podcast on that. That 100% happened too. It was fucking terrifying. I had no idea what was going on, but how they ended up making it so, I was the story, is they would terrify me if I would leave my house, stalk me around town, etc. And then when I would stay in my house, they would put me in what's called a filter bubble. And that means that they're controlling the information going into my phones, my internet, my Wi-Fi, my Cox cable, whatever. And so I'm blocked from maybe things that are being spread about me on the internet, etc. They disseminated a lot of information on like Facebook groups, like Facebook mommy blogger groups of San Diego, on base, shit like that. And then they, I became the story, essentially. And I didn't know. I was just getting fucking terrified. So what they do is they preoccupy you, and while they're preoccupying you, they're spreading a bunch of shit about you. Even though I already had these local guys spreading a bunch of shit about me since nearly 19 years old, believe it or not. There's some corrupt local cops who were like trying to get that bag. They knew my dad, coming up through their career, and they knew that was an extra place for money. And there is quite the culture of corruption here in San Diego. We're going to go into that more. Yeah. So you become the story. And the reason why you become the story is because they're going to be doing some shit to you that's going to have you flipping the fuck out. And People need a reason for what they're seeing. And if you don't know people are going ahead of you and spreading a false narrative, you think that these people are just all dickheads. You don't realize that, you know, there might be a collaborated effort, either if you were blowing a whistle on something, or you know, local shit, like, you know, how cops and people in the military industrial community are probably really allergic to jail, especially people who've been doing this for so long and now they fucked up because they pressed me too hard and it revealed who they were because they were desperate to get this bag. And local people who aren't involved in that world needed a reason why I was being crazy, why I was losing my shit. And so essentially, just like with that, you know, that clip from that movie, Kill the Messenger, you become the fucking story. So, you know, people, they need a reason for what they're seeing. And I have a great clip here I'm going to play for you, and that I have on the Cointelpro 2 website as well. I definitely recommend you guys. This is another reason why I did the visual format, is because I wanted to start, you know, using the website as a means to, this is on our website here. This is under character assassination. We got a large, I'm scrolling through the website here for people who are just listening. I mean, we got like 50 articles already up for all this shit, and I have almost like a video and a podcast. So yeah, what am I scrolling through here? Character assassination. I think I have that already in a tab. Nope. Open it in a tab. So yeah, on this character assassination page, if it'll load, I got all this stuff working off my cell phone signal, so the internet's a little slow. But yeah, so it's a character assassination technique to make people only talk about you, not talk about what the actual thing they should be focusing on. Because here in people that are fucking with me, I mean, you have no idea. I've been going through this shit for nearly a decade. And I say nearly a decade because I didn't realize that pedophile shit about me had been going around for quite some time. And there were a lot of things that were happening to me around 2010, 2011 that I just scratched off as like vertigo or what have you. And a lot of people were passing around this fucking story that I was like some silent pedophile walking amongst them. And so there's a lot of these like MySpace mommy, you know, the same, you know, the crazy people who go to like school meetings and scream about masks and how their kid can't breathe and shit. Those same kind of people, all like having this like inside understanding that these people, they all told themselves that they were going to sterilize me via radiation, and they were going to do it slowly over time so I wouldn't notice. Crazy, right? But like I said, these local cops, etc., who were going to steal from me, who were going to rob me, have been like laying this foundation down since I was like 19 years old, like 2001, because they were planning on robbing me. I didn't know this was going on, literally amongst me, and I literally had no fucking clue. Fucking just, homie, you just fuck. Just thinking about it, dude, I fucking can't believe these motherfuckers. Yeah. So basically, I thought I would pass off things that would happen to me medically, like I would thought, oh, maybe I got vertigo or whatever. Like, no, it's like these people are using these industrial radiation applications, usually stuff that that are used to X-ray like oil pipes and stuff like that to check for cracks. It's also you can also use these applications to expose people to radiation out in public. And the thing about radiation exposure and radiation as a weapon is that it's quiet, it's invisible, it's silent, and lots of people will pass off like side effects of radiation sickness or what have you if you never gone through like chemo or something like that, you'll just think like, oh, that was weird. Oh, that was weird. I stood up and all of a sudden I need to fall to the ground. You know, like, oh man, I need to start taking, excuse me, iron supplements or something. And yeah, and all because these local cops were planning on fucking robbing me. And so they know that, and they knew when that happened, because these local cops are smart. They know how the city runs. They know how to fucking push people out of town. There's literally like seminars and shit like that cities and go to. They call in like, you know, consultants and shit like that to show how they can evade, you know, detection and use all these different tactics to push people out of town, etc. There are literally consultants who educate cities and stuff like that, and law enforcement, and it's under the guise of, well, you might need to get some undesirables out of town or whatever, as if that is even a fucking, it's legit. So I didn't know that these fucking cops were passing this shit around about me since I was literally 19 years old. But it was because they were planning on fucking robbing me and they needed a nice story. So, yeah, I mean, that eventually led to like a false confession that I must have like downloaded the shit or something. And basically how they did that shit is going over here. Let me show you here on the website. I literally go over the shit like it's like magic. You would think it's magic, but there's like different techniques of making you think you did something wrong. But first and foremost was these local motherfuckers would like stalk me around town. I have a whole podcast on what's it called? What is red squatting? Where they start to make you associate just crazy things. The same way you ever see those dogs with those buttons and you're like, oh my god, that's amazing. How do you make your dog associate the button with the word and know the word? So they use that same kind of technique on you, but instead they reinforce the association by shooting you with radiation and having you like fall to your fucking knees and shit like that. They'll ambush you with these things. They'll come up to your fucking car, they'll drive alongside you, whatever. And you'll start to create these associations. And basically they're like trying to program you like a fucking dog. And law enforcement's in on it, etc. But especially since it was also in the Bush's best interest for me to be distracted by all this nonsense. And then these local motherfuckers didn't want to go to jail. They didn't want to go to the booty room for trying to extort me. It just became this like this copacetic understanding, and so cops and military community, etc., are just allowed to fucking run a train on my life and my what do you call it? My constitutional rights. And they were subjecting me to things like called enhanced torture and shit like that. They do a bunch of ghost in the machine type shit on my TV, like using deepfakes. So I'd be like watching TV and then live TV, and then all of a sudden they would like, you can live puppet they got the technology now where you can like live puppet the face. You know about deepfakes? Well, there's something called a real-time deepfake. So they would like have the TV reach out and like talk to me a couple of times. They would do that. All my shit was hacked, and they'd use their little NSA tools to do like some ghost in the machine, like crazy stuff that would literally spook the shit out of you. They fucking terrified me. They were constantly exposing me to radiation, etc. And eventually, the way your brain works is like, you can't make sense of so much abuse. Do you understand? And for it to be coordinated, etc., eventually in your head, you start to rationalize, I must deserve this because this is fucking crazy, you know? And eventually you're not even thinking about, oh, it must be that fucking thing I saw, or that information I linked, or that leaked, or that thing I talked about, because you'll just be so inundated with this shit. But you know, there's that book that Snowden came out with called Permanent Record, where he talks about how the NSA, whatever, has all the data on you and your life and everything you've done, etc. And what they do on top of this whole scary shit that they do with all your machines and stuff, right, to get you to feel like you did something wrong. they'll be giving you psychotropic drugs. Just fucking, bro. Just fucking. If you're a pretty laid back, passive guy, I'm a crazy passive guy. So, you know, and to go through this kind of shit, like you will literally tell yourself, like, what the fuck? The U.S. government is not scared of its citizens, and they've been perfecting this Cointelpro shit forever. But like I was talking about that Snowden book, Permanent Record. They'll use everything that the government has on records or whatever about you, man, and they'll fucking use that to like mind fuck you. They'll bring up shit that you haven't even thought about. You know, where you used to skateboard as a kid or whatever, and they start to build this like rapport. Hey, we know everything. You know, you fucked up. They'll start this whole like, you fucked up bad. You know you fucked up. You know what you did. And they won't say anything. They're just trying to press you, and then they'll start bargaining with you, saying, you know what, if you just tell us what you did, then this stuff will be communicated to you over your phones and shit like that. You know, we'll leave you alone. We'll stop shooting with radiation, etc. And that's not a bargain, man. That's not like... By the way, this shit started because someone tried to extort me, and I told them to go fuck yourself. And that was like the cursor. And then I got another response. I was in a extended stay America in Oceanside on my laptop, and then these motherfuckers hacked my laptop screen, and then, you know, brought up a notepad and just said, if you don't pay us, we'll ruin your fucking life. And then my computer froze, and I was fucking freaking the fuck out. I went to go, there's this girl that was supposed to be my girlfriend, I guess, at the time, who wasn't. She was in on this fucking try to extort me thing. And I tried to show that thing on the computer. It was fucking gone by the time I came back. They obviously probably had an eyeball on me. But, I mean, that's not a bargain. Like, this all started because someone tried to extort me. Well, at least initially. And they said they'd ruin my life if I didn't fucking pay them, because they were sure I had money and I was holding out on them. And then it just went fucking bananas. It just went fucking bananas. They go through everything in your life. They'll start telling people everything, like, about your past. They'll start telling everyone that you raped all these girls. They'll start telling you, like, you know what you did. People will harass you in town. It's really spooky. It's a not natural. It's not natural. You know what I'm saying? And eventually you will break down. You know what I'm saying? It's science. Eventually you will break down. But, I mean, they'll use everything. The government knows everything about you. And if they're not, they'll interview all the right people to find out shit. And then eventually you'll just be like, well, you guys know everything. So you obviously are fucking, you know what the fuck is going on. And you guys won't start abusing me. Meanwhile, here's the thing about any of the shit that I've been accused of. It's like, it's got zero statute of limitations. You understand? Like, if any of it was true, I would be in jail. What they're looking for is, they want you to incriminate yourself so they can then distribute shit on the internet. So then your credibility is gone, and then they can continue to abuse the shit out of you. And then people will just be like, oh, well, he's a bad guy. But none of this shit happened. But they wouldn't stop abusing me. And eventually I started, you know, thinking like, maybe I could have fucking come across that shit on a fucking same site or whatever. Because back in like 2001 or whatever, I was really into like gore porn, you know, out of high school, watching people get their heads cut off, and just really weird and gross things, really sketchy sites and stuff like that. But I mean, like, I just, because they were so gnarly to me, I was thinking like, man, maybe I could have come across that shit, you know, didn't know or whatever, you know. Because like, when you go to a YouTube site, like, how many fucking videos on a YouTube site? So that's, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, so they convinced me at that time, after a while, that I must have fucking done something wrong. Meanwhile, nothing ever happened. Nothing. Like 0 fucking percent. But yeah, so I think the best example on how they'll fucking like go to your background here, there's this guy named Nardwar who does these interviews with these rappers. And just this guy is super good at finding things going on in people's past, and you really need to fucking check this out.
So, Tyler, could you please tell us, Canada, is your mom half Canadian?
Yeah, her. What the fuck? How do you know this shit? Yeah, my mom's mixed. Yo, shit. What the fuck? You with the feds, nigga?
ASAP, what is the importance of the Black Ink Gallery?
Wow. How the fuck do you know about the Black Ink Gallery?
Yeah, and she's actually Spanish. I wonder where the fuck she's at. That's fucking crazy. How the fuck you know that, bro?
You're Travis Scott. We have to know.
It's fucking crazy. Yeah.
And Travis, what exactly is going on in this photo right here?
Holy shit! Yeah, man, this is
Canada, as I mentioned. I guess I was wondering there, Waka, do you still like salt and vinegar chips?
Yo, this guy's crazy. How you know that, man? I love them. That's my favorite chips. Who are you?
Senor Gordy Human Serviette?
Hey, can I want to put you down with the squad.
Oh, wow.
Here we go.
Oh, that's amazing. That's heavy, too. Wow. Grinder, weren't you, Jimmy? Were you a grinder?
Okay, anyways. That's just, again, one example. Like, they will interview people and make you, and then bring shit up into from your past and stuff like that. They'll go and find people. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. If they don't have the data on you, they will send agents out, and they represented themselves as cops or concerned cops, or they're doing an investigation, and a lot of people will just start giving up information because they think, oh, well, this person's in trouble, and I don't want this person's trouble on my end. And that's kind of how, eventually they start getting enough information, and then they'll start to build this rapport, like, we know everything, etc., and they'll start to try to convince you that you did something wrong, and they're going to tell you what you did wrong. Eventually they'll tell you what you did wrong. Well, not what you did wrong, but what they're saying what you did wrong. And they'll use, there's a couple of different, what do you call it? There's something called behavioral loop. If you're looking at the screen right now, we're on the website. Behavioral loop is, they'll get you into a pattern, and they're going to be using, I'm going to describe a couple of different false confession techniques. They're going to be using all these on you simultaneously while they're exposing you to fucking radiation and shit, while they're feeding you fucking psychotropic drugs. Psychotropic drugs are ones that, like, fuck with your brain chemistry and make you, put you in different moods and shit like that. Like mood stabilizers, but crazier, like Thorazine and shit. They're going to have people, fucking random people abuse you. Your food's constantly going to get, like, poisoned and etc. Like, you're just gonna go through all these, like, traumas constantly, just like rapid fire all the time. And at the same time, they're gonna be fucking hitting you with this, like, just fucking say you did this, just say you did this. And they'll be communicating this shit all through your fucking phones and your computers and shit like that, because the government's really big on plausible deniability, and since backdoors are now built into everything, they can delete or add or freeze up or whatever they want. Like, they have complete control over these devices. People talk shit about how China is like a digital bully. Fuck, you have no idea. When the federal government wants to fuck your life, they will do the craziest, most spookiest shit with your devices and stuff like that that I've never seen in any horror movie I've ever seen in my life, and how they mix real world with digital world, and like with the drugs and the stalking and people like assaulting you and radiation exposure. And so you're constantly going from one crisis to the next. You don't have any time to think. At the same time, they're telling you, like, confess to this, whatever. One of those techniques, and like I said, they do all these things at the same time, and this all feeds back into becoming the story. So they have a thing called behavioral loop, where for my behavioral loop, what they would do is they said, you better go and talk to this person. If you don't go and talk to this person, you're going to keep getting abused. We're going to keep exposing this radiation shit, whatever. So you better go and talk to this person because you got beef with them, and that's why all this has started. I have a whole episode on the washing machine where they constantly will change the narrative as to what the causes of your abuse are, because they don't want you to anchor to one thing. They want you to constantly just be up in the air like, oh, what's going on? So one is behavioral loop, and so they'll give you a task, and it'll be communicated to you over your phone, etc. And after that, after a while, and I say communicate to your phone, you'll have an understanding that you don't own your phone and that your internet is completely manipulatable. Every video thumbnail, videos can be real-time deep fake. So you'd be in the middle of a PewDiePie video and they'll just fucking take that dude's face and then start like having it talk to you and shit like that. They talked about these kind of videos on what's that called? What's that fucking movie called? With Jonah Hill, he's a fucking cop with Channing Tatum, whatever. And the beginning was like them. What the fuck is that movie called? It's whatever. And they have like, they're getting like video instructions from the internet, whatever. And that's that system. They're just talking about it in a different way. But like, so yeah, so your internet now is, they can just puppet your internet to feed you information. And believe it or not, this system wasn't put in place to fuck people over. In fact, it was put in place because vice cops and undercover federal agents and, you know, spies, etc., need a way to communicate to each other without meeting each other, because then that like exposes them. And so the system was actually developed to completely manipulate the internet, like the same way that you can like build a web page on Wix. You write the code and you put the images, which ones you like or whatever. Is the same thing going on at NSA and even local police departments now, because undercover cops need to communicate things to each other. And so they can communicate something to somebody else and it just looks like they're scrolling through the internet or whatever. But since they have that association, well, okay, well, if I see that picture, I know that picture, and whatever the information is below that picture, I know that picture means pay attention to this information or what have you. And there's all these different ways to communicate this shit. It's really fucking spooky if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. So they would communicate to me, go talk to this person and squash this beef. And I would do that, and then they would stop doing the exposed. They would, all of a sudden my life wouldn't be crazy for a little while. And then they would get me in this pattern. Okay, go here and do this, or go here and squash this beef. This is what this is about. Because I was just so desperate to make this shit go away. So they get you in this loop where they give you instructions, you go and do a thing, and then your life gets better for like a few days. They'll stop exposing you to radiation, whatever. They start conditioning to do whatever I say, and then you don't get the fucking radiation anymore. You don't get fucking mind fucked anymore. You don't get fucking your food poisoned. And they get you into this loop where now you're just like, okay, whatever you say, master, kind of thing. And at the time, like I said, man, local cops aren't helping me because they're trying to protect their own. And the feds are fucking helping me because they're instructed to fuck me. So there's behavioral loop. Let me go through this. They got there's something called fleecing the sheep, where that's another psychological warfare technique for trying to get someone to fucking incriminate themselves for something they didn't do. I'm looking at it right here on the web page. For those of you listening, it's called Fleecing the Sheep. If you're watching the video. But yeah, they got this thing called Fleecing the Sheep, where they will just tell us what we want to hear. And you're like, I don't know what to fucking say. And then you just fucking, and they hit you with the fucking radiation and shit like that. Radiation is used a lot because it's silent, but it absolutely will cripple you, bro. Your body is not ready for that shit. Even people who've gone through chemotherapy haven't had this shit used on them like a fucking ambush weapon. Where you're just and they have it, and like, let's say you're just walking on the sidewalk and they put one of those devices in a fucking trash can. So when you walk by the trash can, you know, just like with those remote bombs that fucking Al Qaeda and shit made, where they would call it on a cell phone and it would ignite and it would set it off. Well, they do that shit. They'll put those things in like trash cans. They'll hide them in electrical boxes on the street. They'll put them inside cars. If you're walking past, they know you're gonna walk past this way on the road or what have you. They'll put it in the car and wait for you to walk past the car. So it'll be like, tell us what we want to hear. You're like, I don't know what it is. What do you want to hear? And then they'll hit you with the radiation. You're like, you know, I used to wear women's clothing. Like, what do you want me to say? Because you're just desperate. You're fucking desperate, bro. You're desperate for it to stop. Radiation as a weapon is bananas. It's bananas. And the people who are doing it lose their fucking minds. None of these people have ever, the people who are shooting with the radiation shit, they've never had this shit shot at them. They don't know what constant ambush radiation poisoning feels like. So the people who are shooting with this radiation shit go way overboard because they don't have a gauge for what they're doing. Do you understand? And since they don't have a gauge, it's like if you don't know what getting punched in the arm feels like, then you would probably go, or getting punched in the face feels like. If you've never been punched in your face your whole life, you probably walk around all day talking shit, right? Because you don't know what getting punched in the fucking face feels like. So since you don't have that gauge of it, you're probably just gonna go around and fucking overdoing it. The same thing with this radiation shit. These guys who are doing this shit to me, they're still doing it. They're still doing it. In fact, they're doing it to me right now. Believe it or not, I'm like jumping from hotel to hotel right now because I gotta wait to move into this spot, and they're using this time to do some fucked up shit to me. Right now, I have so since San Diego is a military town, etc. Like I said, they have that partnership or whatever. Right now, I've got, when I go and check into a hotel room, since I want to make my money stretch, I'm not rich because they also blacklist you. I got to stay in these shitty motels, and since the rooms are cheap, these motherfuckers, they just follow you around town. And so now I got a guy above me, and they'll be on either side of my room, and they're shooting that shit into the fucking room, or they're shooting that shit down on me while I'm sleeping. It's fucking terrifying. But I've been going through this shit since 2014-ish. So now it's like I've normalized this crazy shit. But anyways, so they got that. They got Fleecing the Sheep. They got, how I said they had the fucking, what's that, behavioral loop. They got Fleecing the Sheep technique. They'll be doing these things on you all at the same time. They're not doing just one and then waiting. There's something called the guilt machine, where you'll be constantly bombarded with messages that you're a bad person, you fucking pissed off everyone in your life, you're a fucking loser, all the things you say aren't true, you're a fucking thief, you're a fucking, you're a piece of shit to your family. You're constantly gonna be hit with all these gnarly negative messages. This is, like I said, all this stuff is happening at the same time. So I'm saying, think of it you're getting poked from here, and then you're getting poked from here, and then you're getting poked, I'm saying, all at the same time. So there's a thing called the guilt machine. Well, it's what I call it, and it's a technique where they're constantly going to be bombarding you with just the gnarliest negative shit ever that you've ever heard, and you have to just digest it. And if you don't know what it's like to not be able to go to the police when shit is just way too much. I'm not talking about not being able to fight someone on the street. I'm talking about when you got people shooting radiation shit at you, and you can't go to the police because the fucking cops trying to protect their own because they know some of their homies were trying to pull a job. So now I don't have the fucking police cooperation because they're trying to save their asses. So they got the guilt machine, and getting bombarded with negativity for years, days on end, it fucking gets you, yeah. It gets you, it really gets you fucking hard. Then, they'll try to fucking make you think. At the same time, they'll also try to make you think that what you know as truth, they'll get you to doubt it. The best way I can put it is imposter syndrome. You say something, and then what they'll do is they'll go out of their way to make that thing not true. It'll be something simple. Oh yeah, I saw, yeah, he's got a red car. Oh, I saw fucking Charlie's got a red car. And then, I'm saying, Charlie will have a fucking a blue car from now on, or what have you. You'll swear, you told somebody one thing, and then it'll be the other thing, and it'll be something drastic. You'll swear you did something one way, and then, God, that's the best way I can put it. They'll constantly have you now checking to whether you doubt yourself. And that's another part of this, is they'll go out of their way to make simple things that you would just rely on to be true, or things you say or whatever, and they'll make that go out, and they'll go out of their way to make those things untrue. We're about to run out of time on the podcast thing, so I'm going to have to pause and what do you call it? restart because I want all this stuff to be cohesive. Okay. So that'll be going on, man. Like you're not worth it. You're not worth it. You're not ready for it, man. Like that's the best way I can fucking put it. You're just not ready for it. The people who impose this shit on targets, they never under this shit. Local crooks and shit like that, they don't understand the shit that you go through, like local gangsters or whatever, and they'll be told that you're, you know, some fucking piece of shit. Oh, this dude fucking pushes mom down the stairs. He fucking eating puppies or whatever. Like whatever it is, they don't understand. Like I said, I got like literally like 50. I got like 50 articles here. I got nearly 60 hours of podcasts of just the fucked up shit that the feds will do to you if you're a threat to them or a rich family who is, you know, really involved and really tied into the government. So yeah. And so they use all that shit to make you doubt yourself. And then you're already just tired of taking all this radiation shit. And, you know, you're constantly trying to turn over every rock. You know what I'm saying? That whole behavioral loop thing. Because you want the radiation stuff. Like, what do I need to do? Do I need to do this? Do I need to say this? What do I need to do? I mean, it became a time when one time I broke down. Like, this shit will make you break down like a bitch. I remember one time I broke down and just made this fucking story up. Like, gnarly story I made up. Because I thought if I completely embarrassed myself and made myself to be pathetic, that they would fucking leave me alone. Do you know what I'm saying? So I was like, what do I need to do? Do you guys need... Because there was a lot of like, you deserve this. This is punishment for something. And it's like, okay, do I need to be pathetic? I can do pathetic. So I remember one time I got on my knees and I started crying and I was just like, when I was 8, I would wake up in strange houses and I'd be naked and shit. Like, and you know, I started making up this fucking crazy story and fucking I've broken down in tears. I was really upset. There were real tears, but I didn't know what to do to make these motherfuckers stop shooting me with this radiation shit, to stop like psychologically fucking torturing me. Stop having people stalk me around. I just remember one time I got on my knees and I just started like bawling and like made up this whole story on the fly. And sure enough, for like 2 or 3 days after that happened, my life was back to normal and I could just breathe and I didn't have to be constantly nauseous. I didn't have to worry about my food for a couple of days, but then it went straight back. But you have no fucking clue what this shit will do to you, man. Like, you just want it to stop. It is the craziest shit you'll ever go under. No, like, there are more astronauts in the world, I bet, than people who really understand how fucking gnarly this program can get. And let me tell you, bro, if you're gonna fucking swing on the bushes, you better be ready for the fucking smoke they're gonna bring on you, dog. And I'll be honest, that's kind of been half the reason why I've had a problem getting people, because now I've got this video and stuff. I made the video of the thing I saw, and you know, I made a whole documentary series around it, and all while going through this fucking torture. But yeah, dog, you're just not ready for the fucking smoke, especially if you're gonna swing on the fucking bushes. I mean, their dad is literally named after the fucking CIA building. The CIA building is known as the George H.W. Bush Center. Do you understand? He's the only former head of the CIA that's also been former head of the entire country. George Bush's dad. He's the fucking president too. So like, if you're gonna fucking punch up on these motherfuckers, you're just really not ready for what these assholes will bring. Like, they come prepared, bro. They fucking come prepared. You're not ready for it. It's amazing that while I went through this fucking gnarly experience, that these motherfuckers that I was able to put this shit together while running around with my head cut off. So that's why, I mean, some of it, I've watched it. Some of it's pretty fucking boring. Some of it fucking sucks, but it's the right information. It's just, you don't really have time to be creative and think about editing techniques, etc., while you're fighting radiation sickness, while you're fighting the aches that being exposed to radiation does to your bones and joints after a while. It's crazy. But yeah, it was so crazy, man. Like, sure enough, I was just like, mate, do you guys want me to fucking embarrass myself? I can do that. Can my life go back to normal if I embarrass myself? So crazy. But yeah, you'll fucking do anything. You'll fucking do anything, bro. Short of sucking another man's dick, I was ready to do anything to make this shit stop. Whatever you want me to fucking say, whatever you want me to do. Do you need me to embarrass myself? Do I need to fucking apologize to you? Do I need to get on my knee? Like, radiation as a weapon is something that nobody is prepared for. It does some pretty gnarly toll on your fucking body, your emotions, your whole biology. If they shoot it in certain places, man, you want to, a crazy little fun fact, they mixed the science of kinesiology, sports medicine, how muscles work and shit. And what they'll do when you're sleeping over maybe like a couple of weeks time, they, because a lot of these devices and stuff like that, they'll burrow underneath the foundation of your crib. Because this radiation shit, it'll go through like 10 feet of fucking steel and concrete, believe it or not. Radiation goes through anything. Well, ionizing radiation, not microwave radiation. But, and they'll shoot that shit from up underneath your bedroom when you're sleeping. And they'll target your shoulder for like a week, 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden now you can barely move that shit. Because they took kinesiology, the science of how muscles work, and they'll focus on that. And what this radiation does is it can also cause massive muscle atrophy. Yeah, you're just not fucking ready for it. I know I went off on a whole tangent there about the radiation shit and the false, but like, bro, like, it's all happening at once. You're going 1,000,000 miles an hour constantly. You don't have time to think. It's a recipe. They can get you. They can put you in any corner that they need you to be, whether true, not true, what have you. Which, by the way, well, you know what I'm saying, when I took myself out of this situation where they were fucking terrifying me at this family member's house I was staying at, which my family member just let them do, for some fucking reason, most likely because, she thought she was helping police, or, maybe she believed some story they fucking told them. Just gave them full access. The family member just gave them full access to me. Allowed them to come into my fucking room when I was sleeping. I would wake up and feel like I stepped on a nail and shit because they would be injecting me with shit. She just let these motherfuckers come in the fucking crib. Come to find out, my stepfather suffered the same fate. He was much older. He was in his 70s. They were exposing him to fucking radiation. And he went to the doctors constantly. This is before they got at me. And what they were trying to do is they were trying to break down my family so we wouldn't have anybody to run to when it came time that they were going to ambush us, because they knew Jeb was going to, test the waters to see if he can get elected. So they were trying to break down my family. They stole intellectual property from me, because if they have this project, this video game I was working on, they stole that from me. And a NQTel company, a CIA funded company, NQTel company, video game company, ended up taking my fucking game and turned it into fucking Pokemon Go. I got it all documented and shit like that. So they steal your intellectual property. They don't want you to be able to fight back. So if you have an asset you can sell, that for a lot of money, which it was what I was doing. I was shopping that technology around. Nobody had come up with it. I was going to ad agencies, etc. Like, hey, check out this thing that I made. What do you guys think about it? Can you use it? They stole that from me. They fucking eliminated my stepfather. Eventually they got to my uncle. with that radiation thing. The radiation shit for the old people does not. They go fucking quick, bro. Not that I'm a young pup, but by the time the Bush's associates got involved, then they started using this radiation shit on my family and stuff like that, while misinforming them through various, means, and distracting them the same way they distracted me. Whatever you were seeing Steve go through, oh, he's crazy, he's whatever, he's this. And while they were trying to put those fucking family members in the fucking grave. And a lot of people were saying it's because I made some anti-Bush t-shirt back in 2003 or some shit. Some people were saying it was because like a death threat I made, and you just don't mess with the Bushes or whatever. Well, I did things like record myself calling the fucking Secret Service, etc., and like nothing. Nobody wanted me for anything. Which goes on to my next thing is what I did in response to this. I made a whole website. It's nostephenbeckman.com. I'd go into police stations and record myself, like, because that became the big thing. Is once they convinced me I did something, I fucking saw some fucking like little kid shit or whatever on the internet. Once they fucking convinced me that I must have done this, after then all of a sudden they went away for a while because they had something they could smear me with, and then they didn't see me as a threat anymore. And then I was just like, after a while I was like, bro, that never fucking happened. And then I was like, you know what, fuck this shit. So I went and fucking took a polygraph. When I removed myself from the toxic situation, you're able to think clearly. So I went and got a polygraph from the head of the entire the head of the entire state's polygraph association. I fucking found that dude, and then I went and I took a fucking polygraph from this guy. By the way, polygraph is used by sheriff's department. It's used by the fucking feds. It's used by the fucking CIA. You can't become a CIA officer unless you take a fucking polygraph and pass. So I fucking took a polygraph. I asked the dude to ask me all the right questions. Hey, I want you to ask me if I've ever had sex with a minor, ever downloaded any fucking pictures or videos of minors. I want you to ask me these questions about if I've ever committed a hate crime, because one of the spinning stories was that I committed a hate crime against a rich trans kid or something, and that's why this was happening. So everything I can think of that these motherfuckers were trying to give me a reason for what happened, I went and I had this polygraph dude ask me these fucking questions. Crazy enough, once I started the polygraph, I didn't know that there was one of these corrupt cops in the other room, because until the test was about to start, and he mentioned something about parking tickets or whatever, because I guess a lot of these cops are going around town saying, oh, we're just giving old Steve a hard time because he had some trouble paying some parking tickets, and we're just teaching him a lesson. Like, so people don't ask questions and they just say I'm dramatic. So I mentioned something about parking tickets to this dude right before he started the test, and then I heard this cop in the other room start laughing, and the door started to creak a little bit, and I saw the dude's foot and everything. I was like, motherfuckers. So these local cops, they went ahead of me in my appointment and went and talked to this fucking dude about all this fucking shit. So what they do is they like to prime the pump. They like to prime people's understanding of you before they meet you. And they're only able to do this because all my shit is hacked. And so before I go somewhere, before I go to a hotel, before I go to the doctors, before whatever, they'll send a cop or some asshole ahead of me and be like, okay, so this is who Steven is, and this is, so if he tells you anything about this, because these motherfuckers, they're not going to go to jail. These fucking cops don't want to go to jail, bro. They're a bunch of pussies. They want to fucking act like a bunch of badasses and try to shake people down. And then we also have the fucking Bush factor. Like, that family is not going to, whatever. So they don't want me going around telling people this shit about, about that shit. And then they're what I'm saying, they'll spread some rumors saying like, oh, we told them a fairy tale, or what. Nobody told me shit. Nobody told me shit. I was doing a shit ton of research, and I came across this. You understand? Like, and it was just a fluke. It wasn't some sort of, like, identifier. It's not some big joke that they play on, what I'm saying, like, secret pedophiles or shit. That's some of the stories being told, by the way. So it was because I was doing a shit ton of research, and this was related to all the things I was looking into. It wasn't like they're trying to say it was like a scarlet letter, and they told me this information to identify me. Like, bullshit. Like, I fucking remember what I was doing. I remember all the fucking movies I was watching, all the fucking articles and shit I was reading. Like, no, homie, I was doing a whole bunch of research on random shit because I was a huge fucking nerd about that shit back then, and that was one of the things I came across. Like, and these motherfuckers are trying to spread this. Yeah. So I know I went on and on and on about this. I know I've talked about this in lots of other episodes, but it's important. It's gonna weave. This is gonna weave into, what do you call it? Becoming the story. So this is how I became the story, by the way. But just like as that guy said in that movie, you know, like they're gonna fucking say they're not gonna be talking about the story. They're not gonna be talking about, you know, the Bush shit. They're not gonna be talking about the local corruption that you found out that Marines with NSA detail and fucking corrupt cops have a racket that they're using to shake down people in town by illegally looking at their financials and then having the local cops do the shakedown, and then they fucking split the shit. Nobody's talking about that. That's huge. That's fucking huge. Here, actually, you know what? Here, let's look back at the screen. That's a huge story. That's fucking a huge story. Can you imagine if that ever hit the fucking... So, like, check this out. So, God, they're still shooting that shit at me. They're shooting it right now at, like, my tailbone and stuff, like, etc., and my lower spine, so, like, I can't move around. Asshole next door. What is it gonna do? What am I gonna do? Call the fucking cops? The guy above me, man, when I'm sleeping, they just bombard me with this radiation shit, and I wake up with, like, fucking radiation poisoning. But yeah, check out the screen here. Those of you who are listening, I'm looking at an article. It's on Wired magazine. You can look this up, I guess, if you're not watching the video. It's called 12 True Tales of Creepy NSA Cyberstalking. So these are people who work in NSA, like, way overstepping their bounds. And this is just... a lot of these stories is, like, lame shit, like stalking boyfriends and shit like that. But they said analysts used their access to America's high-tech surveillance infrastructure to spy on girlfriends, boyfriends, random people they met in social settings, ex-lovers, and would fire up a wiretap with a few strokes. And this is shit that these people at the NSA do on a whim. You know? So they're already breaking the fucking Constitution. They're breaking the law. There's no reason why they should be spying, these motherfuckers. Now think about somebody who's criminally minded doing the same shit. And that's what was going on. Is they were, in my case, they were what's it called, like planning like potential terrorist threat kind of evidence on my social media and emails and shit like that. So they would have reason to get a FISA warrant to look at my financials, where they discovered I had money that they could try to steal. Notwithstanding that's how they found out how much it was. Notwithstanding the local cops who were already gonna fucking jack me and shit like that. From what I'm understanding, these guys became friends or whatnot because they had the training, and the cops are the boots on the ground, and so it's like they do this whole teamwork thing. It's fucking incredible. But can you imagine if that was a fucking story, that people at the NSA are casing you to see if you're worth fucking jacking, and then they have a bunch of fucking corrupt pigs, you know, work the shakedown, you know, using their fucking, you know what I'm saying, training day fucking friends and shit like that to go and fuck you up and get a fucking score on you? Can you imagine that fucking story? Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about that. I became the fucking story. Nobody's talking about that shit. Nobody's talking about the fucking Bush thing. Well, I think a lot of people also aren't talking about that because they know how badly they fuck people up. I mean, like, they are all about that life, man. They love that shit. I mean, I think the Bush and Cheney family really understand that old parable, it's better to be feared than respected. They love stories about, like, man-sized safes in the vice president's office and shit like that. They love that shit. They live for this shit. They you know what I'm saying? And their reputation precedes them. They pride themselves on that shit. That's most likely why people aren't talking about this other shit. But they know, and I've seen a lot of people kind of higher up the food chain kind of give me a wink, like, I saw the thing, I saw it, you know, blah blah blah. So, but can you imagine the other story? Can you imagine that story? No, how much? I mean, we're already riling about police corruption and stuff. Like, can you imagine if we found, if it hit the fucking headlines that NSA employees and police were working together to fucking do rackets on people? You're supposed to be looking for terrorists, instead you're trying to figure out how to fucking, you know, separate my fucking Mima from her retirement that her fucking late husband left her or something. Like, it's crazy. Anyways, so I became the fucking story. And you can be too. So if you're going to be leaking stuff, etc., just understand. I know I say this on a lot of the podcasts. Snowden is the Michael Jordan. You understand? Snowden is Michael Jordan of this shit. Not everybody is Michael Jordan. A lot of people play pickup ball. You understand? Like, if you're ever in the position, fucking drop down. If you're ever in the fucking position where you're gonna leak something or go to the media for something, whatever, like, he has CIA training. He understood long in advance what his fucking plan was. Not the normal asshole like me doesn't. They have to make all the mistakes, and then they make a podcast and video series while they're getting fucking beamed at by fucking corporal asshole next door. But anyways, so you need to understand, you know, how that can get you all caught up, man. You will become the fucking story, just like that clip I played in the beginning said. There are so many fucking disciplines, formulas, like baking cookies, that these motherfuckers can get you caught up in. I got this crazy bitch's face. What I got? Oh, yeah, I wanted to talk about some other things. So, another way I became the story is people were just saying, like, oh, you know, Steve, you're overreacting, what have you. Somebody already told us about what was going on, etc. So let me just describe a couple of things to you. You know, while you're becoming the story, you know, understand what you got in store. Is it gonna come up? My internet is so slow here. But let me, you know what? Fuck that shit. Let me just go on and talk about it. So, here's just a couple of things that happened to me that the budgets alone to pull these scams off have nothing to do with some local fucking pedo rumors and shit. You know, it has nothing to, it's not like some weird hazing. It's none of that shit. And we'll just go over some of the things. I was going to bring up a map so you can see this, but my internet is so slow. But I am going to end on this one video I found. Mind-blowing shit. Actually, let me double check that on my screen. Not Nardware. Oh, we got the other great shit I was going to bring up. Yeah. Well, yeah, while you're becoming the story, too, they're going to get the villagers mad at you. It's something called a self-driving car. I heard one contractor who helped me out was like, basically, it's a self-driving car. What they do is they spread all these rumors and they get a bunch of people all crazy about you. So now you're become the story, but now your energy is now spent trying to fucking get away from these people. You're not worried about trying to fucking expose corruption or blow the whistle or whatever. And then I had all these different people. Like I said, I took a polygraph for, you know, fucking chomo shit, for fucking hate crimes, for making threats against George Bush. Like, I never made a threat to that motherfucker. I didn't care if he was the president. I mean, I knew he was a warmongering dickhead, but I didn't walk around all day being like, fuck George Bush, you know? Excuse me. So they get a bunch of mobs of different people. Once you become the story, eventually, I had all these video clips prepared, and I just started yammering, and I realized, you know, I started going down all these things on my list, and I didn't use my examples. But there are some things I missed. Let's see here. Is it this video?
Where in part one of the things they're doing is, to your earlier point, they're using sort of our woke culture.
Let me go back here. Here's another clip. This guy was just on the Joe Rogan show. He's a former CIA officer.
Right. Enough for the mob. You're never pure enough for the mob.
Thank you.
And that is absolutely true.
100%.
Yeah, and I think everybody, no matter where you are in that political spectrum and what your beliefs are, you might want to keep that in mind.
Yeah, because it's not, they're not really, like the whole idea is that they're about kindness and consideration. That's horseshit. They're about control. And they're using kindness and consideration and inclusiveness, all these things, as talking points to allow them to exercise control. This is an idea.
And what your thought process is and what you believe, you're never going to be righteous enough for the mob. You're never pure.
So yeah, like I was saying, they will cause like a mob of people to start fucking with you in town because all these rumors about you. And the methodology is actually a method. Here, look back up here on my screen. Under the character assassination page on the gang stalking Cointelpro 2.0 website that you can find at Cointelpro, the number 2, and then 0zero.com spelled out. It's called Gish Gallop. It's a technique used during debating that focuses on overwhelming an opponent. This is a Wikipedia article I posted inside our article. That's used during debating, but it also can be used. It's the same methodology, just applied to fucking a person's reputation up. You gotta think about all these techniques that I'm sharing. There's always a good side to it. It's like nuclear power. You can use nuclear power to power homes, or you can use nuclear power to make a bomb. The same thing with Gish Gallop. You can use it to debate someone. That's a kind of a good thing. The meaning of minds, or you can use Gish Gallop technique for character assassination. Let me read this. Gish Gallop is a technique used during debating that focuses on overwhelming an opponent with as many arguments as possible, without regard for accuracy or strength of any arguments. The term was coined by Eugene Scott and named after the creationist Duane Gish, who used the technique frequently against proponents of evolution. So these same things will be used against you. Like now that you become the story, they're gonna inundate your name in association with the Gish Gallop. They're gonna, like the article says, overwhelm an opponent with as many arguments as possible without regard for accuracy or strength of the arguments. So basically, you're going to be walking around town eventually because now you've become the story. People are going to be saying the craziest shit to you. I have people come up to me saying like, you know, and fucking assaulted me and said some shit like, "We don't need you in town." Sending pictures of your dick to a bunch of high school girls, like, fucking what? I had to find out about that. That was a new one. But yeah, people were passing that shit around, saying that I sent pictures of my penis to all these high school girls. And it's essentially Gish Gallop. They just inundate your name and reputation with just crazy stories. I had people saying that I was like stealing from my clients. I ran a marketing, like a small-time marketing agency for a while. They said I was stealing from my clients. They said I was committing grand larceny. And everywhere I went, I would meet a new person who had a new story about who I was. And I never met these people before. They shouldn't know my fucking face. So, like, it's a Gish Gallop technique. And that's what becoming the story is. You need to be prepared for that. You need to be prepared for these different techniques. And here's this great clip from Pompeo where he says, "We lied, we cheated, we stole." I'm not going to play it because my internet is shit. But I will play this one video. It's a video I made for the project. And it shows you how it's a technique I use. I make a little frame picture for people who are just listening. I make a little frame that you can see through. And then I put a little frog on a piece of paper. And around that frog, I drew little circles. And each one of those circles, I wrote a different reason. And then I went to each, I would look the camera through the lens. I'm describing this for the people who are just listening to the podcast. Because, you know, but still showing, looking through this little window I cut out in a piece of paper. Looking through it with the camera lens at this frog who was sitting on this piece of paper with all these circles with different reasons why, you know, you would hate a person or whatever. But you're all looking at the same frog. So this is the video here.
Okay, I'm going to show you a quick model on how disinformation is used to spread rumors about you and start fires in your life. Okay, so look at this as the actual reason for what's going on. What will happen is people then come into your life and start fires and rumors about you to different demographics. So, and it'll all be weaved into somewhat, a tiny piece of the truth will be used to weave into each one of these lies. So there'll be one lie here, and it'll go along with the circle, and it'll go one lie here, and go in the circle, and it'll be going one lie here in the circle. Another lie will be here, but it'll be weaved into somewhat the truth. So it all seems like a congruent reason, and also the contractors, the security contractors, private spy groups, whatever you want to call them, will then be able to use common ground to spread rumors about you, but have it all seem like it fits. There'll all be different reasons. So if you want to look at this from a 3D point of view, so they'll start a rumor, or they'll find something like a anthill problem that you dealt with in your past and turn it into a mountain. And then let's say these are different demographics. These are family people. This is, you know, LGBT people. This is your business colleagues. This is your immediate family. This one is for your friends. This one is like a lie about you, like a sexual escapade, etc. And everyone will be looking at the same thing. Everyone will be looking at the same thing, but from different perspectives. So everyone will think they are the closest to the sun on your problem, and they understand what's going on.
So yeah, eventually that is what it is everyone will be looking at you and everyone will know your name, but everyone's operating under different information of why they should hate you. So like they spread some shit that I committed a hate crime against like an LGBT person, and literally every place I would eat where there'd be like a gay or effeminate dude who worked there, always my food would get fucked with. They'd spit in my food. Why? Because somehow these motherfuckers in town had this whole story about me. Like every different group. If it was about my fucking parents, my parents were saying things like, they're getting told things, well, before all these like pedo things got spread about me, right? That wasn't even the story when this started. It evolved into this big magnanimous thing. Eventually they were just saying things like, oh, your ex-girlfriend is just messing with you because you weren't a good lover. Literally, there would be people that went to my grandmother and my aunt, and then I'd go to my grandmother and aunt's house, and then my grandma would be laughing because literally this broad that I was dating would go over there and say, Steve's just upset because he couldn't pleasure me. He's got some things to learn. And I'm with this guy now because, you know, he dicks me down better or whatever. Like, no bullshit. So I go to my grandma's house. I fucking love my grandma. She's making all these jokes about how I need to learn to be a better lover. Like, they just make up crazy shit. You become the story. So now I can't tell my grandma about how, you know, I'm going through this crazy corruption thing. Now she just, because part of these assholes were cops and shit like that saying this, now she thinks it's this other different situation because I wasn't ready to tell her about it. She's 90. I'm not trying to give her a heart attack. But these people will go ahead of you, whether everybody you know, and will just well, whoever the person is, whatever they think that they can handle or process or whatever, that's what the story they'll tell them is. Whether you're a fucking pedophile, whether you beat your dog, whether you fucking steal from your fucking business associates, whether you plagiarized something, whether you fucking, God knows what you beat up a gay person. Stupid. But yeah, you become the fucking story. And it's something you have to be wary of. I mean, just today, I went... Oh, and that story with that broad that I was dating, it started off with her wanting to get... Like, this is how it... I can hear... This is the best way I can show you how, like, not only will you become the story, but how the evolution of a small story will evolve into a huge story. So first and foremost, this girl who I was with, who was actually paid to fucking do this shit to me. First, we split ways. I was trying to hold it together because all this crazy shit was happening to me, and I was afraid that this chick was going to leave and they were going to do fucked up shit to her. So while I was trying to keep a lid on me not freaking the fuck out, I was also trying really hard not to make this broad leave, because I thought if she'd left, bad things would happen to her, and I didn't have a good understanding of what was even going on. So even though I just wanted this chick the farthest away from me possible, every time she went to like go, I'd freak the fuck out, because I was like, no, you don't understand. Whatever the fuck is happening is bad. I can't stand you. I think you're, you know what I'm saying, you're very, what's the word, promiscuous. I didn't think she was very, you know, saying loyal to me. It was pretty obvious. Plus, I drug tested her for meth, and she came out positive, and she couldn't give me a good story as to why she had meth in her system, because I just, like I said, I was having a lot of issues with her too. But I didn't realize that she was getting paid to fucking do this to me, to help do this to me with these assholes. So before I knew that was going on, I finally was like convinced her to go to her home state ahead of me with her mom, because I thought that was far enough away from the bullshit. And then I told her, oh, I'll meet you there. I'm gonna drive up there. And I just made that up because I needed to know she was gonna go to a safe place, but far the fuck away from me. Because whatever bad juju she brought, I didn't know what she was doing at the time. So then we parted ways. So the story was like, ended up like this. And this sounds like gossip, like I'm telling you gossip, but you need to understand how these things can get out of control. So I know it probably sounds like I'm rattling on and on and on about myself. So what happened with me and her when we and her parted ways, first and foremost, was those kind of stories. They were going around to my grandma and stuff like that saying, oh, well, they broke up because Steve was a bad lover. Then the story went to Steve had a micro penis, and that's why he couldn't satisfy this girl. So we broke up. No bullshit. Then the story evolved to we broke up because she wanted to get back with her ex-husband. And then the story changed to we parted ways because she wanted to start a career doing adult movies. And then the story went from Steve was a bad lover, Steve had a little dick, I wanted to get back with my husband, or my ex-husband, I wanted to start a career in porn, and then the story changed to Steve raped me. Like, but it started in one spot where everyone was like, oh, ha 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 ha, right? And that's like their way in. That's their foot in the door. But it's still on topic of sex, so they get you thinking of a root idea of sex. And so you keep hearing the Steve, me, sex, Steve, me, sex. And then it goes to Steve, me, sex, little dick, Steve. So now their idea of me is going down because now the story is still sex-oriented, but now I have a little dick in the story, so now those people, maybe they're my grandmother, maybe they're my fucking co-workers. No bullshit. These people just go and find these people I knew. And so it's all based on association. It's like behavioral brain science, believe it or not. And they start anchoring terms to your name And then every time they see this person or these people, the story evolves. And then it was that she wanted to go back with an ex. And then it was that she wanted to start a career in porn. But it was still me, her, sex, me, her, sex, me, her, sex. And then it ended up to Steve raped me. And then by then, everyone's like losing their mind. People were spreading that story on base and shit like that, believe it or not. That story got so out of control that some Marine's wife was off base shopping, and she saw me driving my car, right? This is that Gish Gallop method. Remember I was just showing you Gish Gallop for character assassination? It's literally Gish Gallop. All of a sudden I'm just inundated. I became the story. She saw me at a light, and she drove her car into mine because she recognized me and she heard all those bad stories about me. I found out later, because when I got hit, it was just weird. It was like, this fucking car came out of nowhere and hit me. I had to find out later from a Marine, because that story's been going around so much all over fucking town, all over city. Somehow all these motherfuckers know my face because I became the story. That this lady I never met was so emboldened by her information, which she in no way was double checked, obviously, if I'm just this free person walking around, right? That she drove her fucking car into mine. I had to find out later from a Marine. They're like, oh, I heard about that. Homie, a lot of those Marine wives are crazy. They'll hear that you did something to one of their friends or whatever, and they'll just do whatever they want. And then, like, he started laughing. I started asking more questions, and come to find out, because, like I said, this story started off first. It would start off with Steve's a bad lover, then then I want to go into porn, and now Steve's a fucking rapist because I became the story. But they use Gish Gallop method of character assassination to inflame people to then act out on you. And this shit went crazy, bro. For every crazy rumor, they use this Gish Gallop method. So now there's like 150 different reasons why people don't like me, and none of them are true. I've gone out of my way. I created that whole website where I would contact the district attorney's office. I would contact the sheriff's department. I would go to the police. Literally went to because like I said, those locals are trying to rob me. This guy was a former Carlsbad cop who started the rumor, and he was part of the group that was planning on fucking jacking me. I went to his department, police department specifically, and I fucking told him, look, this is what everyone's saying. It's about some fucking child porn thing, right? So I'm telling them what they need to look for, right? Telling them what they need to look for. Then I told them, hey, there's an FBI fusion center down the street. Let's include this on this. So now I got the FBI fusion center on this. They're coming up with nothing. The fucking police are coming up with nothing. These are charges that, have zero statute of limitations. I can never run from them. And I'm literally walking into the fucking station saying, arrest me if this is true. And they're saying, what the fuck are you talking about? We don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I get the FBI involved. Nothing. But everyone's so convinced. Because you become the fucking story. And it will sneak up on you. They will keep you scared in your house while they spread rumors on you. They will use these enhanced torture, false confession techniques to just get you to say whatever the fuck it is to make this shit stop. They'll make you doubt yourself. They'll make you think that they have all the answers, and if you just make them happy, they'll go the fuck away. It's out of control. But yeah, I wanted to end on, so there's all these fucking rumors, but little do people know the crazy shit that I personally went through, even though I became the fucking story. First and foremost was me because there was like a purge in the military industrial community going on around here while the Trump election was going on. Remember when everyone was like obsessed with Trump in the media? No one could stop. He would just do it. Everyone had Trump mania. They were using that media cover to pull some really fucking sketchy shit here in San Diego. And there was a complete media blockade. How I know this is because I tried to report that shit here because, like I said, some of these contractors helped me put together this whole guide. and find out things about, hey, look up Gish Gallop, whatever, blah, blah, blah. These are tips that these motherfuckers gave me. You know how long it would take me to find the behavioral study that matches up with the opposite version of this abuse technique I'm going through? Forever. So they were telling me, hey, this thing that you're seeing or this thing that you're seeing, pay attention. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to all the newer, nicer cars around here, getting all fucking crashed up. We're going to be sending you around some of these spots where we know that they're fucking taking control of people's cars and making them fucking crash and shit. And sure enough, they would fucking make sure to send me around town. At the time, I was blacklisted. All I could do was drive Uber. And I had this collaboration with somebody. They would keep sending me to places all around town because they wanted me to see what was going on. And there was this one time when they kept saying, tell her about the cliff. Tell her about the cliff. Tell her about the cliff. And I was just like, what the fuck are they talking about? And apparently they thought I got the name of the person because they were trying to also, these guys, I don't call them assholes, these guys, these contractors who were throwing me a bone, were telling me to warn a lady about a cliff, to stay away from the cliff, the cliff. And I remember getting this message for like 30 fucking days. But I didn't know the name of the person, whatever. And I guess maybe they assumed somebody else out in the field kind of matched that information up. Because I guess for a while this like purge was going on, I became kind of like, even though I was still going through shit, I became this like roving set of eyes around town. I didn't know, basically, but from what I'm understanding is they thought that I was matching up this information with somebody else who was helping me out there. Because there's a shit ton of field intel people all over San Diego, believe it or not. So I didn't match that shit up, and sure enough, some lady got smashed by a fucking cliff in Encinitas. But they were telling me for like a month, tell her about the cliff, tell her to stay away from the cliff, blah, 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 over and over and over and over in my, you know what I'm saying? I kept getting these messages, but I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. And this is the kind of shit that was happening. They'll find really creative ways to make something look like an accident around here. And that's essentially how they get rid of people in the military industrial complex they think are leakers, etc., if they don't fucking end up giving you cancer or whatever. And it was such a nightmare. But I went through a lot more of the crazy shit. So I have a lot of people in town talking about, I become the story talking about I'm a secret pedophile and I'm a fucking rapist and I steal money from my business associates and, you know, I fucking abuse my mom and crazy shit. I'm a stalker, like just shit I never even knew was being said about me because the actions never happened. I didn't know why people would know my face. So some of the crazy shit that happened to me was, first and foremost, like I said, I would keep getting those messages on my phone, etc. And after a while, I had to get rid of my car. And I started taking the train. And one day they were telling me, you know, Steve, stop taking the train to South San Diego for work. Stop taking the train. Stay away from South San Diego right now. Because South San Diego, they already fucked up North County and they moved down to South San Diego. They kept telling me to stay away. And I was just like, well, I need money. I can't stay away. And at the same time, I was also getting these tips, like somebody sending shit to my phone saying, like, and I didn't know if it was a good person or a bad person, because there's a lot of good cop, bad cop while I was going through this. Like people pretending to help me and people who were helping me. And I never knew who friend or foe was. And I was panicking, and you know what I'm saying, when you're panicking, etc., you say shit you shouldn't say. But because I didn't have context of what the fuck was happening, I just thought people didn't have my best interest in mind. And sure enough, while I was on the very front car of the train one day, somebody got thrown in front of the train I was on. And then I want to tell you, for about a month and a half, those messages that got sent to me stopped. So that fucking happened. Then after that happened, it was nothing but negative shit coming through my phone. They would gaslight me about things. Eventually, I kept taking the train even though that was so crazy. I fucking heard the dude screaming and crunching underneath the fucking train. for a while then, because they were shooting me with the radiation stuff, and for a while I didn't know what the source of the pain was. I just knew when I would go near certain things or whatever, what was going on. And then they tried to gaslight me, saying that I was being shot with a laser from planes. And they kept trying to reinforce it at the same time as when I started going to the FBI and telling them about my abuse. So I'm thinking that the military, who was doing this shit and was also covering for the Bushes, was trying to they knew I was talking to the FBI. And I think what they were trying to do is gaslight me into saying crazy things to the feds so I'd lose credibility. And so one thing that they were saying that I was getting hit with a special new kind of laser out of a drone and fighter jets that were really high up in the sky, and I couldn't see them, but they were beaming them down with me. That's what I was feeling when I'd go out and about the town. They kept reinforcing this. They'd send this shit to my phone. They'd pretend to be my friend. People would give me like fake tips and shit like that in comment sections randomly from burner accounts. And basically it was like gaslighting. They were trying to give me like fake leads. And, you know, I was like, oh, well, maybe. I don't know. I can't really see that, but whatever. So then one day they really tried hard to reinforce this gaslighting because I was starting to talk to the feds. And I was working right next to the Miramar Air Force Base doing marketing. I finally found a job after being blacklisted, even though that was a fucking nightmare. And I was still taking the train, even though I fucking crunched over that dude, and it was gnarly to hear some dude fucking scream while... So he obviously got thrown in front of that fucking train. He did not jump in front of it. He got fucking thrown in front of that bitch. He was screaming, and then I heard that crunch. Like, ugh. Anyways, so I was walking down this giant hill from the Miramar Air Force Base. There's a business park right next door. And they kept hitting me with all these messages about, you know, Jewish space lasers or whatever from a fucking... Oh, I got this garbage on my screen. Let me go back to this Cointelpro graphic. And then finally they had this fucking jet. They timed it perfectly. There's this one last building before there's this long walk to the train station. Because commuting in San Diego is fucking horrible. You want to take the train if you can. If you work in North San Diego and you work in South San Diego, you want to take the train. So I was walking to the train station, this long ass walk every day, and they timed it perfectly for right when I was getting off work. This jet did this low and slow flyover. I want to say like 4 stories off the ground. And right as I was passing this like 2-story building, the very last 2-story building before this long like field stretch, all the way to the train station in Sereno Valley in San Diego. And when I did that, at the same time, they shot me with that radiation shit. Because you can feel it now. After a while, you got to think... The best way I can describe it is you don't feel the radiation, you feel the nerve damage that it did. You know, after you get shot so many times in certain places, and they'll keep targeting certain things. And so they had this jet fly over right when I was on the way to the train. They timed it, so when I got off work and they knew that I was walking by, they had this fucking F-14 fly slow right over the top of me, loud as fuck. And at the same time, they had somebody in the building shoot that shit at me through like a window or what have you. The window was only like 10-15 feet away, but they tried to time it at the same time so it would reinforce that idea. But like they're using fighter jets at this point to reinforce a false narrative. So then when I was talking to the feds, I'd go to them and tell the feds about Jewish space lasers or something. And yeah, it was fucking crazy, dog. It was crazy. But I understood, since I was walking by buildings in certain areas that I was getting shot by these things, that it couldn't have been that. But they were trying to reinforce this false narrative. Because if they can gaslight you into thinking something crazy is real, and then you go and tell people that shit, then they can go and then disprove you and then ruin your credibility. And so they had this fighter jet fly over super slow, and it showed its belly to me when it flew by. It showed its belly as it was going through this valley. It's the Sereno Valley. And somebody shot me through the window from the 2-story building that the plane was going right over. I swear to God, I thought the windows were going to break. But at the same time, I got like hit with some gnarly radiation poisoning. And basically you just feel nauseous and like you want to fall to your knees, basically. They timed it up perfectly. Right when the jet flew over, they hit me with the radiation shit. Because they were trying to reinforce that. That happened to me. What are some other crazy things that fucking happened that just way over budget for some simple small town bullshit? You understand? When I went to the LA Times, as I was going towards the building, the first time I went down to LA because I knew all the media was absolutely compromised here in San Diego. When I went down to LA Times the second time, the first time they told me, don't go back there, you better stay in San Diego, Steve. We're going to hit you with this radiation shit, blah, 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 if you don't go. And after a while, I stopped losing my fear of the radiation, even though it literally happened to me right this second. I wasn't scared of it as much. It just was an inconvenience and it sucked. So what happened was when I was outside the LA Times the second time I went, they had a well-placed active denial service weapon, which I don't know if you know. It's basically a microwave. It like cooks you and it makes you feel like you're on fucking fire. And as I was going towards the building, they hit me with that shit. And bro, homie, you have no idea. The only thing you give a shit about is getting out of the way of that shit. But they shot me when my car was directly across the street from LA Times. I was waiting at the light. I was going to turn in and go park my car. So I had to sit and wait at the stoplight because there's a shit ton of traffic. So if I blazed through it, I probably would have gotten hit. So I just had to sit in my car while I'm pretty sure a box truck or one of those Sprinter vans, one or the other was hitting me with this thing. And fuck, it was the longest red light of my life. So basically they committed a fucking, like, something against the Geneva Convention. You're not supposed to, that's a wartime weapon and or like crowd control for like an embassy. So they used that shit on me because they didn't want me walking in the LA Times. I still went in there even after feeling like I was on fire to go and talk to this journalist who didn't do shit. She kind of mentioned, hey, some cops came in here earlier talking about you. And then when I walked out of the LA Times, it was more localized. Some people were saying it could have been like infrared lasers. But as I was coming out in LA Times, it was like I was like getting hit in small areas, so it still burned like the active denial service. But my whole body felt like it was on fire. It was the worst. I had to sit at that light for like, I don't know, 1-2 minutes. It was the longest 3 minutes or so of my entire life. But I knew about all this fucked up shit happening to people in San Diego, and I had to tell people. So I went the second time, and yeah. So and when I came out of the building after talking to this journalist, the second journalist I talked to, they would shoot me with these little things, and it burned, but it was just like a localized burn. And then later I was describing this to somebody, like, yeah, that sounds like maybe it might have been like some high-powered infrared laser or something. The whole time they were shooting me with this all the way to my car, so they must have had people up in like the windows or something on the street. And so like, yeah. So I get back to my car, and that's when they blasted me with a shit ton of gamma radiation because I started seeing like stars. This Jetta rolled up to me as I was getting into my car in the car park and just blasted me with something, and I felt like I wanted to fall to my knees, and I saw like stars. I later read that that's what astronauts see when they close their eyes when they're traveling to the moon. It's high charged particles going through their eyes, and that's why it looks like you're seeing stars. So yeah, I mean, it kind of matches up. So we got that. So we got fighter jets, we got active denial service weapons, real-time deep fakes being used on me. I've yet to hear anybody, I've looked all over the internet, somebody be harassed by that shit. Like, just the budget alone for the shit that's been done to me is high dollar. Every time I went to LA, I would always have a posse of cars swerving at me, trying to run me off the fucking road. There's this long stretch of road in between San Diego and Orange County that is for a power plant that's on Camp Pendleton property. I'm gonna say it's like 5 miles or so, 5, maybe 7 miles. And that whole length, there's no cameras, there's no nothing. And that's when these motherfuckers literally tried to fucking run me off the fucking road. They had cars pulling up alongside me and hitting me with that radiation. I'd get this like wave of radiation poisoning as this car would come up alongside me. Like high dollar shit, man. This isn't local rumor crap. Okay, these are fighter jets. I looked on the internet because I was curious. How much does that jet cost? Oh, it costs $40,000 an hour to operate it. Yet somehow that I became top of the priority list for them to just gaslight me in the chance that I would go and tell the FBI that Jewish space lasers were being shot at me. Hold on, I gotta do this, what do you call it? Thingy for my podcast, for the podcast people. So yeah. But, high dollar shit, man. And one thing about becoming the story, which is something you have to worry about, is they're gonna get real gnarly with it. They're gonna find little subgroups of people that will, it's called the self-driving car. Did I talk about that? Where they get these people now these people think they become your keeper. You know that video I played for you? That was why I played that video of Joe Rogan, is that CIA guy talking about the woke mob and how you're never good enough for the mob. And that's true. Once a mob of people get together, especially when you become the story and they think it's for some outrageous reason that you went out of your way, especially me, I mean, polygraphs, police reports, I mean, crazy shit. And what happened is a lot of these cops, etc., who also don't want to go to jail, they don't want to go to the booty room for trying to extort me, so it's in their best interest to reinforce these rumors. There's a lot of people in town who think I'm some sort of secret pedophile. There's these Marines and vets and shit like that, and like, what do you call it, like gangsters in town who think they're allowed to do fucked up shit to me because, you know, somebody told them I was a fucking pedophile. They get these people riled up because you become the story, and then they start to get obsessed with you. There'll be people in town who become obsessed with you. There's a lot of like Randy Marsh's, you know, Randy Marsh, Stan Marsh's dad, kind of, I thought this was America, you know, like those type of dudes, like those kinds of dudes who go to like student board meetings to scream about their kid having to wear a mask. Like those kind of weird, obsessive, over the top losers who, like, aside from their, you know, their job hanging drywall, they don't have a fucking life. You know what I'm saying? They, you know, they only see the kids once a week now, or shit, like, you know, that's the terms of the divorce. Like, losers will become obsessed with you after you become the story, and that's kind of my issue now. Is now I have all these people that think they're like, you know, pedophile hunters and shit. I mean, it's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. Even though I've gone out of my way, I've talked to a lot of these people personally. I've confronted them, like, bro, why are you doing this to me? Oh, you know what? Well, how about this? How come I can walk into the police department and literally tell them that this is what everyone's saying about me? Can you do a background check of these charges, which have no statute of limitations? Can you check with the FBI Fusion Center down the street? I will literally take a polygraph test. These assholes, they're obsessed. They're really sad assholes. They have no lives. But that's what becoming the story will do. And you need to worry about this, because it doesn't matter what's true. It's about what they can make people believe about you. So, I mean, oh, bro, I found one of these guys on TikTok. Let me show you this guy. For you, those of you listening here, let me show you.
$18.4 million child sex trafficking and child sex materials come from Facebook.
Want to know something equally as bad as that? When I got out of the Army, the first thing I did is I started tracking down and hunting pedophiles online, digitally, internationally. Now, among doing other things, I would also report them to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, as well as the FBI. Thousands, at least almost 20,000, came from Facebook.
Anyways, so I got these kind of guys, right? They think they're pedo hunters. They think that they're doing like God's work and shit. Like, I've gone out of my way to like I made a special website. I showed them none of this is true. You're a fucking asshole who believes fantasies. But like that guy, he became a pedophile hunter. He was saving the babies, bro. You know, like literally every fucking what do you call it? Online service provider has a record of everything you do online. They keep a record since 1995. You understand? Look into this. And somehow only this man can save the babies. But these are the kind of fucking people I'm dealing with now. Like right now, I have this asshole. I gotta have to probably go talk to him here pretty soon. This guy shooting this radiation shit down on me, and he's stomping all over the place like he's a fucking 8-year-old throwing a tantrum. And there, I think it's some vatos or something like that. But I'm staying in this seedy hotel, and I came to this hotel, and now people came in here and told everybody a bunch of fucking fairy tales about me. And since I'm the nerdy white guy, and they're a bunch of fucking cokehead fucking vatos who are probably running girls out of this fucking motel, they think they're a bunch of badasses. They're trying to flex on me. Literally, this is happening right now. I'm probably gonna have to go fucking talk to this fucking nerd. Because they want to believe a fairy tale. They want to believe that they're the fucking hero. Because that's what happens when you become the fucking story. You get these fucking losers. You get these fucking zeros who probably haven't done shit with their whole life. But now all of a sudden they have this fucking reason, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm fucking making the world a better place. No, you're not. You're a fucking asshole. The government is shitting down my neck. And you need a purpose. But this is what happens when you become the fucking story. Is sad assholes all of a sudden think they're fucking superheroes. They're fucking dollar store superheroes. And they will follow you around town. They will fucking try to poison your food. I get all sorts of... I found a whole Facebook group about me online that a lot of the same NSA cunts who are trying to extort me are using to spread information online about me. Fake shit. They're getting all these local stay-at-home moms all crazy about me. I have these stay-at-home moms now following me around stores, trying to like film me with their fucking phone cameras. I found this Facebook group. They're uploading pictures and videos of me on there because now I became the story. Guess what they're not talking about? The fact that people with NSA detail in San Diego and local cops are extorting people using tools that they should be using to look for fucking terrorists. Instead, they're just trying to see who has enough money to steal. They're not talking about the fact that while I was casually researching something totally unrelated, I came across some shit that massively would affect some fucking family's ability to maintain an image. What they are talking about is me. I became the fucking story. Why? Fucking God knows what. There might be deep fakes out there of me. There might be fucking... who the fuck knows? But now I have to deal with these hometown heroes that think they're saving the fucking children and shit. And they're not trying to hear anything else. I mean, I've had assholes make up conspiracies on the fly. I'll literally show them, hey bro, what about this video of me walking into the fucking feds? Me literally talking to the fucking cop. What about that? And then they go, oh, what they were doing? Like, literally, I've met these people because I became the story now. Now people, all they can do is focus on me. They'll fucking make up a conspiracy as to why I was able to walk in and out of the fucking police department, telling me exactly what they should be looking for. Like I'm fucking Kaiser Soze. And then this dude, I remember one time on the fly, he's like, that probably happened because what did he say? He said because some shit with George Soros or whatever is protecting me because I'm you know what I'm saying, I'm the fucking link to a bunch of elite pedophiles or some shit. No bullshit. Just created this shit on the fly. He said I was part of some international cabal and I was being protected because some of like me, bro, I'm collecting an unemployment check. I'm eating off the fucking dollar menu. Somehow George Soros is protecting me. These are the same assholes who go into fucking parent-teacher meetings and scream about mask wearing for kids. Who go and start screaming about fucking critical race theory. They're losers. They're losers. But I became the story now, and so now I have all these fucking has-beens, these fucking zeros, obsessed with me, And you will go through the same shit. You will become the fucking story. And it's very distracting. You have no idea what it's like to... Let me move my screen here. You have no idea what it is. I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to go and get a bite to eat. I'm just trying to go and buy socks. You know what I'm saying? And I have to deal with an entourage of these concerned citizens and shit. People trying to fucking spike my food. There are even local people now trying to help with this radiation shit. They're not being paid or whatever, but they think because a fucking cop or some asshole that, you know what I'm saying, they've had a beer with more than once comes and tells them some crazy shit, that it's all of a sudden true, even though I've literally gone out of my way. Because, you know, George Soros is fucking helping me. It's bananas. These people are fucking losers, but that's the kind of people that they will target. You understand? They will find losers. In fact, specifically, they will look for losers and tell them this shit about you, like cops and stuff. Like, people love to feel important. You will become the story, but then these cops will find losers that want to feel like they're fucking heroes or they're important. And then they'll get them obsessed with you. They'll tell them that, you know, they need your help. We got to watch this guy. Even though, you know, we live in a surveillance age, and I'm pretty sure everything that ever happens ever will be recorded on my phone. But somehow, with the tons of surveillance cameras and fucking Target and my cell phone on me all the time, this pile of fucking stay-at-home broads got to go and watch me buy deodorant. And no bullshit, this happens. I had to just now buy a body camera because people are getting so brave, bro. They're getting so brave with how they fucking come at me, the shit that they do to me. I have to have a fucking body camera now. Because they became obsessed with me. Because, you know, fucking George Soros is helping me. And now, fucking, you know, Becky and her fucking friends watching me buy deodorant at Target. It's the only thing keeping, you know, the fucking kids safe. Like, it's a fucking fantasy. And they will target losers in your community with these lies, etc. Because and they will specifically find losers. People who they know haven't done shit, who don't have anything to do all day, whatever. And they'll find fucking losers to then become obsessed with you. Because you became the fucking story. You need to watch out for this. It's going to make your life very hard to live. People will go out of their way to go and talk to your boss. Did you hear this about your employee? Whatever, they'll get you fucking fired. You know what I'm saying? Like, since my phone is hacked and everything, like I said, I already have cops. Because I have my appointments on my calendar. My phone is hacked to fucking shit. Even though I buy a new phone, there must be back doors or something. They'll go ahead of me and fucking tell everyone. Like, if I have to go in for a doctor's appointment, they'll go and talk to everyone in my doctor's office, you know, an hour before I get there or some shit. It'll make your life extremely difficult. You will become the story. There are more of them than there are one of you. You understand? So it doesn't matter what's true. It matters who can say it more times and who can say it louder. So understand that's something you're gonna have to fucking deal with, is becoming the fucking story. So, you know, I think I want to end the podcast there. Hopefully the visuals helped a little bit. I'm gonna double check here. But yeah, the fucking pedophile hunter. Yeah, bro. I mean, homie, like, a lot of these cops are saying the same shit, that they're hunting the pedos. Like, bro, I went on Megan's. I was just curious. I'm not done, actually. You need to understand how out of hand this will get for you. It'll make fucking living your life extremely difficult. And then they'll use that as well. They'll use the fact that they're getting a bunch of people to make your life difficult. And then what they'll do is they'll interact. They'll have somebody will reach out to your family, or somebody be like, you know, Steve's being a real dirtbag right now. Like, they don't even know that you can't go and get a burrito without someone trying to pour Drano in that shit, because they think you're fucking, you know, eating babies and drinking adrenochrome underneath, you know, your fucking Pizzagate restaurant. Like, just crazy shit. You know, and afterwards I go and have a fucking cigar with George Soros. Crazy. It's fucking crazy. It's fucking crazy. Oh yeah, here's a clip I wanted to talk about how they fucking will try to put shit on you that never happened, etc. There's another fucking great clip from the Rogan show recently. He just did another show with the Innocence Project, and I thought this was interesting.
For me to unravel and to obtain my freedom.
And you know, I'd like to say that that's uncommon too, but it's not. So in other words, when prosecutors are working on one theory, full steam ahead, right? And they then are met with, you might be wrong, we might have been wrong all along. The instinct, 99 times out of 100, is to plow ahead and rationalize why the true perpetrator in Robert's case, why did he...
He's talking about this guy, Robert, who he got blamed for a rape and like a murder and shit like that, and it never happened. But right now the guy from the Innocence Project is talking about how, and this is the same case, this is all about, this kind of shit will happen in your neighborhood when you become the story. You need to understand how, just, yeah, it gets crazy. But he's sitting here talking about how the mentality of the people who will try to put a crime on someone or say somebody did something, how it becomes a game. It becomes more about winning and just saying we were right all along. Even if they're wrong, they, instead of admitting they're wrong, they'll try to figure out a way how it could still be right. So this guy from the Innocence Project, he's constantly getting people off death row, etc., because this shit happens. Our justice department, our justice system is fucked, and people are biased pieces of shit, and they won't like you just because you're black. They won't like you because you're fucking Mexican. They won't like you because you're a Presbyterian. So like this guy gets people, finds their case and gets people off. So he's talking about prosecutors right now. So listen to this.
He all of a sudden said Robert had nothing to do with it. Oh, well, maybe he is making this up because he feels guilty that he implicated his friend who really wasn't his friend. In Clemente Aguirre's case, which we've talked about and your listeners know about, the true killer confessed. She confessed over and over again to friends, to neighbors, drunk, not drunk, to police. In denying him post-conviction relief, now this is a judge. The judge chalked it up as survivor's guilt. So in other words, whether it's a prosecutor's judges, they'll make an excuse to protect the prosecution because it's all about winning or losing.
Let's talk about that. What is that? Is that human nature? Is it like, do people just want to confirm their initial suspicions and they rationalize all sorts of reasons why what they initially thought was right and this new evidence that shows that it's not right is wrong? Like, what is it? Is it they don't want to be, they don't want to lose?
I think it's a fundamental flaw that we have as human beings that I share. As a Taurus, I especially share it.
How dare you bring up astrology?
But I'm stubborn, but I think as I see this time and time again in watching juries deliberate, because I do mock trials and focus groups or speaking to people post verdict, but you can apply it to politics,
to anything.
To anything. I think one fundamental flaw we have as mammals is our inability to be flexible in our reasoning. And I think that once we make a decision about something, it's very, very difficult.
Oh, I think I restarted it.
To get people to reconsider.
I see that and really
pick up something and use it as a weapon on him. And eventually I did. For me to unravel what held.
Judge that he implicated his friend to police in denying him post-conviction relief. Now this is a judge. The judge chalked it up as survivor's guilt. So in other words, whether it's a prosecutor's judges, they'll make an excuse to protect the prosecution because it's all about winning or losing.
Let's talk about that. What is that? Is that human nature? Is it like, do people just want to confirm their initial suspicions and they rationalize all sorts of reasons why what they initially thought was right and this new evidence that shows that it's not right is wrong? Like, what is it? Is it they don't want to be, they don't want to lose?
I think it's a fundamental flaw that we have as human beings that I share. As a Taurus, I especially share it.
How dare you bring up astrology?
But I'm stubborn, but I think as I see this time and time again and watching juries deliberate, because I do mock trials and focus groups or speaking to people post verdict, but you can apply it to politics,
to anything.
To anything. I think one fundamental flaw we have as mammals is our inability to be flexible in our reasoning. And I think that once we make a decision about something, it's very, very difficult to get people to reconsider.
I see that in really intelligent people too, and it makes me sad.
It's maddening. It's maddening.
It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's like you aren't. The part of the problem, I think, with police, with prosecutors, with the whole legal system is that it becomes a game. And I don't mean a game like it's a joke. I mean a game like you're trying to win.
Yes.
And whenever someone is involved in something where they're trying to win, they do whatever the fuck they can. People cheat. They move golf balls, right? They do whatever the fuck they can. Don't look at Jamie.
Whenever I hear
people moving those fucking things.
Whenever I hear,
I bet you do. They cheat.
Whenever I hear golf ball.
Well, people cheat, man. They find ways to pretend that they didn't do something when they did it. They find ways to justify the things that they did do. They find ways to pass the buck and put it on. If they can score that W, right? And you see cops do it. They plant evidence on someone they think was probably guilty, but they don't have enough evidence on them. They find rationalizations, and it's because there's a game going on. It's a win or lose, and it becomes a real problem. And not only that, with a lot of cops, there's quotas. Like, you literally have to arrest a certain amount of people.
So in my situation, the only thing these cops hunting fake pedophiles are worried about is getting real butt fucked in jail for what they're doing to me. I think we're gonna end the podcast on that. Please check out our video series. It's videos.cointelpro, the number 2.0.com. Check out our website, Cointelpro, the number 2.0.0.com, and then also our podcast series at podcasts with an S .cointelpro, the number 2, and then 0.0.0.com. I recommend considering the nature of the things that have happened to people who fucking helped me to only use DuckDuckGo to view our website, any of our materials, whether that be Mesh News, the Cointelpro 2.0 project, our videos, our podcasts. We linked them that way so you don't need an app to watch them, so it won't log your data that you're watching these kinds of things. Because think about it, you're watching things, you're listening to things through an app about how to fight the government if you're leaking information, which a lot of this material is for. You're going to be put on a list. So I made all of our projects this way, so with these website addresses, and you can listen to the podcast in the browser on DuckDuckGo. Don't use anything else. I would recommend also using a VPN. Open up DuckDuckGo, and you can go to podcast.cointelpro, the number 2.0.com. Has all of our podcasts you can watch in the browser. Videos.cointelpro, the number 2.0.com. Goes straight to a YouTube page. Don't open the app. You can watch it in the browser. You can go to the website. I encourage you to go to the website. We kind of looked at the website here today. I'll pull it up again here. It's taken me a while to get to the website to make it this way. So, we've got a lot of things we got to fix. We got typos and stuff. But I'm kind of doing this as I'm dodging this shit all day. Having to deal with, 50 layers of bullshit. But keep in mind, if you're reading my stuff, don't look at it through your Chrome browser. Don't use it while you're signed into anything. Don't use your YouTube app to watch these videos. Do it in the browser. Don't use your podcast app to listen to our podcasts. Go in the browser. That's why I made this shit this way. Use DuckDuckGo. Make sure you're not signed in. They got the little flame icon. Hit the flame icon before you go to our website, so it gets rid of all the tracking, etc. And yeah, I think that's it for today's podcast. Please keep checking us out. It's crazy. We almost got 10,000 listeners. I can't believe I got this many listeners on this. Got 10,000 listeners now. A little over 9,000. I'm saying 10,000. It's a little over 9. But, you know, the podcast is really taking off, and we appreciate the support. I've been looking at the numbers on the website. I don't get any very drilled down because I don't have analytics installed on purpose, as you can see. So the dashboard for the website just gives me like a general, but the website's fucking taking off. We're getting like, you know, 5,000 visitors a month, which isn't a lot, but it's a lot for this topic. So like, you know, just keep checking it out. Please keep sending me, you know, DMs and emails. You can catch us on Twitter. And yeah, we appreciate all the support. I'm sorry sometimes I get off here and rattle on, but I feel like there's so much of this program that's happening. I forget more than I remember because, you know, like, there's so much shit happening all the time that you just have to drop something and move on to the next. It's more about surviving a situation than anything. And I know that I put on my last podcast, I had that like 4-minute podcast where I was talking about where I'm traveling and I'm worried about my safety. Like, that is still a thing. That's still a thing. Because people are going to go ahead of me and they're going to spread a false narrative about me. And now I have to worry about dickheads who I don't know fucking making my life hard because somebody else came and said a bunch of shit that's not true. But it's like first impressions kind of thing. And then once somebody makes their mind up about something, you can't, you know, even if you've never met them, they're just gonna fucking. So like, you have no idea, bro. Like these assholes, these fucking losers who, these cops, etc., get all riled up, bro. Like, they feel like they're justified, and the cops are reinforcing that shit. They're gonna try to get these motherfuckers to deal with me so they don't have to. So, you know, that's what part of becoming the story is. And so I know a lot of you kind of give me shit for taking my time and getting more content out, or the quality of the content. Or sometimes you just see me on Twitter talking to you motherfuckers. Like, sometimes that's all I got the energy for, man. I am still getting exposed to this shit. People are still poisoning my food. And no amount of me going out of my way to show motherfuckers I'm cool doesn't make it easier, because once, like just like on that fucking Joe Rogan thing, once people make up their mind, whether or not they'll interact with you or not, they just make up their fucking mind. So understand, like, sometimes I just don't have the fucking energy, and then sometimes, like, you know, I have to keep my awareness up. Like, I gotta have a podcast tomorrow where I'm gonna go over all the things I have to do to secure a hotel room while going through Cointelpro, because like, motherfuckers will break in while you're sleeping, go through your shit, poison all your stuff, either because they're getting fucking paid to do it and they're a contractor, or this other shit I've been telling you about, where you become the story and you got all these fucking psychos who think they're a bunch of heroes and they're just a bunch of sad morons. So I'll show you all the things, because let me tell you, man, I've had to deal with this shit a million times. So I know all the tips and tricks, and I'm telling you, man, so tomorrow hopefully this will be another podcast that'll really break this down for you guys. But just understand, man, like, I'm going through some unique shit, and you will just never be able to empathize ever. But understand, like, that's the reason why we don't charge for any of this. That's the reason why I'm not selling anything. I'm not trying to sell hats and buy my book and fuck all that shit. This is government corruption, and people need to know how to fucking evade it. And it's disgusting that since the 70s, no, since the fucking 50s, they've been perfecting the Cointelpro program. So this shit goes off without a hitch. And, you know, saying, like, you hear a lot of shit about gun control and how the government wants to take guns away. Like, bro, I have not been shot at with a gun once, but my life has been completely decimated. My health, my ability to want to fight back, not one shot has been fired. The government doesn't care about guns. That's just an extra thing they want to fucking take from you. This system, like if you ever want to swing on the government, bro, this is the system that they're going to use. And it's perfected. It is perfected. And while you're running around trying to pay your bills, you know, working in an accounting place, doing computer programming, you're not trying to figure out how to evade fucking 50 years of enhanced torture and character assassin techniques that the government's been building on and building on and building on for 50 fucking years. You're not prepared for it. And they're really good at what they do, and they make it look easy, and you're just not ready for it. So I apologize for not putting out more shit. Some days my energy is only so much. So, but I do appreciate all the support, and I can't wait to get to 10,000 listeners. We're on the way. How crazy is that you guys want to sit there and listen to my dumb ass talk about how the government is fucking me in the ass every day. So anyways, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. I'm going to hopefully have another episode by tomorrow about all the shit I got to go through just to secure my spot. And let me tell you, it is extensive. It's a lot of trial and error that I had to go through, and I'm still learning things, but hopefully I'll give you a head start to, you know, keep you safe depending on if you're going through this or not. So thanks for listening.